everybody. My name is Keith Hovan. I'm the President and Chief Executive of South Coast Health. I want to wish everybody a warm welcome, but especially to Mayor John Mitchell and our EMS Director for the City of New Bedford, Mark McGraw, who's right behind me. So on Friday, April 15th, Governor Charlie Baker signed a bill designating the Sunday before Patriots Day as First Responders Day. Now that day was very specifically chosen to commemorate the heroism of first responders in the aftermath of the Boston Marathon bombings of 2013. We commend the governor and the legislators who supported that bill because we see every day the incredible work of our own first responders right here in the communities that we serve. First responders who include EMS, fire, and police responding to emergencies in our very communities. We're here today to thank them and to honor them, and in particular, the EMS of the City of New Bedford. Now, these men and women serve on the front lines of emergency care, and they're the first link in the chain. When somebody has an urgent situation, it's our EMS who respond. That chain continues as we move into our emergency department with our emergency physicians, nurses, and other supporting staff. And just like our first responders, they work hard to provide the very best care, sometimes under very dire circumstances. Now, for our local responders, our first responders, we want them to have the best tools to treat patients in the communities that they're responding to them in, which is why South Coast Health has donated 5 new Zoll monitors to the New Bedford EMS. Patients in distress are now having their vital signs sent directly to the emergency department while they are still en route, saving critical time when minutes and even seconds can make the difference between life and death. So thanks to our local EMS and those Zoll monitors, our emergency department team is even more prepared to receive patients as they enter our doors, being able to be better prepared to manage their conditions on arrival. So we at South Coast are really thrilled to be able to provide these monitors. And we've done that really because of a partnership that we have with the city, in large part because of the work that Mayor Mitchell has undertaken with us. The mayor has been an advocate for community health care and keeping our local services strong, and we appreciate his leadership and vision, and I'll turn the podium over to the mayor.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Keith. For those of members of the media who've come to a number of our press conferences, you'll all note that we have a brand new microphone. So this is a big day for me personally. I just can do this so much more comfortably now. It's the little things that count. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks to Keith for that warm introduction. We do have some folks to recognize today. Many of them are on the job right now, which means in their line of work, it is we shouldn't keep them here long. So we'll get right to the point as quickly as possible. They have a task to do out in the community, but we did want to take this opportunity to do a couple of things, really to highlight the partnership with South Coast Health, which is a strong one, and Keith's leadership is certainly growing. I really appreciate the great working relationship that we have with South Coast, with you and your team, Keith, and it's getting better all the time. And then secondly, we do want to recognize a number of our first responders, and I think the theme of both items in today's press conference is about how we in this community pursue excellence. I mean, we have a first-rate EMS unit headed by Mark McGraw, and Mark will come up in a second and talk a little bit about the folks who are going to be recognized today. But we strive for excellence in everything we do. That's the expectation, folks in city government. That's what our residents deserve, whether it's in police services, whether it's in our schools, whether it's in our library, wherever it is. We strive continuously and constantly to improve our game. And but in the area of emergency medical services, that can't work unless we have a strong partnership with our community hospital. Unfortunately, we do have a very, very strong community hospital here at South Coast, here at St. Luke's in particular. We have a place here that has where I was born. I remember getting my tonsils. I'm looking at the White House right now and thinking, I remember this image. I had my tonsils out at like age 5, looking out that window, and it's just sort of this feeling of deja vu right here. But it's always been, St. Luke's has always been a center of community activity for a long, long time, and the good news is it's getting stronger under great leadership and under great teamwork these days. And the donation, the generous donation of the defibrillators, of the Dazole defibrillators, is, I think, a hallmark of that partnership. We, in order to be really good at what we do, we need to have the latest equipment. To have equipment that works well, that can shave, that can effectively shave seconds off of the time that patients in critical need to be treated. And that's what these things do. I mean, you'll hear a little bit more from Mark about it, but and Keith alluded to it. But the bottom line is, these are state-of-the-art devices that enable our responders to communicate effectively with the emergency room and enable the emergency room to do better that which it's charged with doing. That is to triage patients, to figure out who's in the most critical need, get resources and attention to those folks, and those split seconds can mean the difference between life and death. I don't think that's an overstatement at all. So we really appreciate the generosity of South Coast. It's a recognition on the part of South Coast that when we work together, we're all better off, not just South Coast as a business, but as a community hospital that has a broader mission. They can deliver the services that their patients expect even better, and that we as a community are stronger because we have a healthier population. We have, and this is this is one of many things that we're doing together these days. I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about EMS right now. We do have a very effective EMS unit in our city, and our folks work really hard under sometimes difficult circumstances because we do have a very high call volume in the city, and so they have to be, they are one of the most active EMSs in the state. They treat what they treat, the conditions they treat, run the gamut, from minor things to routine things to advanced traumas and everything in between. And so they have to be generalists. They have to have a deep knowledge base. They have to have a good base of common sense, and most of all, they need to care. And if there's anything that people should know about our EMS department, it's that they care, and that because they care, they hustle and get the job done, and they're very, very effective at it. And so I just want to thank Mark McGraw in particular for all of his work in leading the department. I want to thank everybody who's going to be recognized here today for their hard work. I mean, they're getting recognized for particular incidents, but know that what they do day in and day out matters, and what you're being recognized for is representative of what they do on a very frequent basis. So we really want to thank them and honor them for their service today, because they certainly deserve it. Before I go on, I just want to recognize City Council President Linda Morat, who is here today, another very big supporter of EMS, and as we've expanded our EMS services, the City Council has been right there with us in support, and I think it's certainly in the last couple of years, as we've expanded the number of ambulances and the reach of the department, the City Council has been another terrific partner and a very necessary partner. So Linda, I want to thank you for being here today as well. And with all that, let me turn it over to Mark McGraw, who's done a fantastic job in stewarding the department, and he'll tell you a little bit about what these folks right behind me have done, not just on the days that we're recognizing them, but every day. Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to start off thanking all of you for being here, thanking Keith Hovan for hosting us today. Great partnership between New Bedford EMS and South Coast Hospital Groups. Would also like to recognize the paramedics behind me who, and more importantly, and thank them for doing a job they do every day, 24/7, with a commitment and professionalism that is second to none, as well as their co-workers who do the same thing. Every year, we started last year, every year since we've, for Cardiac Care Month, we like to recognize those paramedics who have an exceptional cardiac call. And we're going to give a brief synopsis when we hand out the certificates on what those types of calls were, so you can see just how significant a paramedic plays in the chain of survival, if you will. We're here to recognize the 8 paramedics for exceptional cardiac care. And with the help of the Zoll monitors, we're able to achieve that. So I guess our story starts about 5 years ago. Myself and Deputy Steve Aruda were invited up to Zoll headquarters in Burlington, Mass. to see this, this new product that they were going to put out. And it was the cardiac monitor that was promised to EMS for years. And we looked at it, and it was beautiful, and it had everything we needed to really up our game. And the cost was pretty high, too. So we came back and brainstormed. We went with the help of Brian Giorgiani from the ER and Dr. Matt Bivens, our medical director, working on one side, and with the help of Bill Burns from South Coast to come up with a plan to see if we couldn't get South Coast to help us out. And they came out big and got us 5 of these monitors. So today we have the 5 Zoll monitors presently working in each truck, like the one you see behind me. What this does for our game as paramedics is the city on our side, we went out and we bought jetpacks, Verizon jetpacks, to place in each ambulance. That essentially makes the ambulance a hotspot for Wi-Fi. We're also updating our laptops, so the laptops can now jump into the Wi-Fi fray, and the laptop and the monitor will be able to speak to each other. But more importantly, if they get a call, a cardiac call, a chest pain, say in the south end of New Bedford, and they get there, they assess the patient, they do a 12-lead EKG, and it's found to be somebody having a heart attack or myocardial infarction. It's called a STEMI, and there's a point of entry that we need to go to the cath lab. So they can now take that EKG from the address that they're at and send it via the jetpack to the physician at Charlton Memorial Hospital. He can now look at the 12-lead, which is now diagnostic, and say, yes, it's a STEMI, and activate the cath lab. So by the time we get the patient package in the south end and start our treatment, we can, the cath team has been alerted that we're on our way, and if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, they're coming in from home to take care of this patient. So by the time we get there, the cath lab is being opened or is already open, and you save a lot of time. And when you talk about cardiac calls and you start to lose cardiac muscle, time is muscle, is what we say. So for every minute they have to wait to get up there to get it confirmed, to open the cath lab, the cardiac muscle is dying, and you don't have as good as outcome as you would like. So with this technology, with the donation of the monitors, with the city updating the Wi-Fi capabilities of the rigs, and of course the paramedics are the biggest link in that, recognizing that we can now treat our patients better, having serious cardiac events in the city. There's also a dozen other things these monitors do. After, if you'd like, you can talk to our training officer, Rosemary Nunes, and she can, or one of the paramedics, and they'll show you how we do this with these monitors. I think without further ado, if you want to do the certificates. All right. So we're going to call them up. I'll read my little, let me find my notes here. I think that's Bernice. Gifford. All right, our first paramedics up is going to be Bernice Fortier and Paul Gifford. Bernice and Paul had a 50-year-old female complaining of chest pain. They diagnosed her at the scene with a MI, a STEMI. They started transport to Charlton Memorial Hospital. The female went into full cardiac arrest. She was revived during transport and delivered to the cath lab for further treatment. I'm not sure which one's Paul's. He has them in a different order. Okay. Next up will be David Branco and Megan Robitaille. David and Megan had a 28-year-old female found in cardiac arrest, was treated at the ACLS level at the scene, moved to the ambulance and transported to St. Luke's to Charlton Memorial Hospital. On arrival at Charlton, she had already had a survivable rhythm that she was in, and she was transferred over to the crew at the cath lab at Charlton Memorial. Next up will be Keenan Martin and Michael Winterson. Keenan and Michael had a 70-year-old male who called in complaining of chest pain, was diagnosed on the scene as having an MI, began transport to Charlton Memorial to the cath lab. During transport, he went into full cardiac arrest. He was revived prior to arriving at Charlton and was delivered over to the cath lab. Next up is Kevin Lent and Bernice Fortier. Kevin and Bernice had a 65-year-old male who was initially dispatched with seizure-like activity. After further assessment, he was found to be having a global MI and was loaded and transported to Charlton Memorial Hospital. He went into ventricular tachycardia during the trip, was treated and delivered stable to the cath lab in Charlton. And our last one is Jeremy Dunca and Megan Robitaille. And this. Jeremy and Megan, this one happened quite recently. It's kind of interesting. They were called to a home in the South End, New Bedford, for a 72-year-old male who collapsed at home. Bystander and family CPR was initiated, which is very important. The fire department arrived and they started to initiate what's called CCR, cardio-cerebral resuscitation. It's a program we started recently that shows great survival rates in patients in cardiac arrest. So it was initiated by the fire. The paramedics got there. They started to get pulses back right away. They sent their EKG via Wi-Fi to Charlton, where they could activate the cath lab. Upon arrival at Charlton, the team was waiting for them. The male had opened his eyes and was starting to wake up already and was starting to what they call buck the tube. He had a tube down his throat to help him breathe. Once somebody becomes now conscious, they start to gag on it and they start to fight it, which is always a great sign for us. And he was treated at the cath lab with good results, we hear. You want me to invite Dr. Bivens up? Yeah. He's next. Yeah, go ahead. So I'd like to introduce you to our medical director, Dr. Matthew Bivens, who is our go-to guy in the ER. We've been very lucky, I feel, to have Dr. Bivens as our medical director. He's been a strong proponent of New Bedford EMS, and has worked hard along with Brian Giorgione and Bill Burns to get us these monitors today. And Dr. Matt Bivens.
Thank you. It's a real honor and privilege to be here today and talk about EMS. I was a paramedic before I was an emergency room doctor. I've worked with paramedics in DC and in Boston, and it's just so great to work with New Bedford EMS. This is one of the elite emergency medicine systems in the country, I feel. They do a phenomenal job. We're talking about cardiac issues today, but they deal with trauma, they deal with pediatric sick cases, and they do it day in and day out and bring us great stuff. So I'd like to ask you all to applaud again for all these people up there. And then just briefly about these monitors, this is very exciting. I'm very grateful to South Coast for stepping up and buying 6 figures worth of expensive high-tech monitors. when somebody's having a heart attack now in the field, in the old days, EMS would know because they're smart and they know how to read EKGs, but it's hard to communicate the exact nature of a bunch of squiggly lines on a pink piece of paper over a radio, especially at 3 in the morning when it involves calling in a lot of people from home. Now, everybody gets this on a smartphone, everybody's on the same page, and the ideal situations happen where patients are coming to the hospital at the same time that doctors and staff are coming to the hospital, and they meet and they get immediate care. So it's got great potential. And I have to say, it's just nice because suddenly everyone's recognizing how good everyone else is at their job. So there's no more complaining about, oh, somebody misread an EKG. Everybody sees it. We basically all know what we're doing, and we're all working together to do the best we can. So it's a great project. I hope we have more of these kinds of projects. Thank you.
Could not have been said better. I really do. I'm so glad Matt recognized just how good the EMS department is. It truly is an excellent department, and better coming from him than from me. It sounds self-serving when it comes from the mayor, but this is someone who works with them day in and day out and has seen other systems work and has the authority to say something like that. Any questions, anybody? Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out today.
Okay, so when we get a patient, we turn the monitor on, and then we can do a full set of vital signs, our blood pressure, 4-lead, and also pulse oximetry. We just hook it up to the patient, and also hook this up. It'll show a 4-lead on the screen, and if it's a cardiac emergency, we will hook up a 12-lead cable, which is on this side of the monitor. Hook this on also, it gives us a better look. That'll also determine if the patient's having an MI, like Mark McGraw said. So once we do that and we figure it is a chest pain and a heart attack, we will then transmit this to Charlton, which we can activate the cath lab from there. This does also end tidal when we intubate. This can do a lot of other things. We also put pads on if they're in CPR to make sure the depth is correct and how fast we're going. Everything else, this machine does a lot of good things for everybody in the city. So that's that on the monitor.
What if a disaster strikes without warning? What if life as you know it has completely turned on its head? What if everything familiar becomes anything but? Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed today. Learn how at ready.gov.
Mom?
Yes?
I've been thinking about it, and I'm not gonna go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job, and I want to buy some new stuff, like a new phone, a car.
Son, college is much more important than a new car.
No, Mom, it isn't.
Yes, son, it is.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom. Anyways, it's my decision.
Your decision. Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college and have a better future.